Today I'm reviewing a game called Cat President, A More Purrfect Union, and it was published by Penguin Pop Games, and it's one of the strangest games I've ever played. What's up, everybody? This is SSG, aka Sergeant Sentinel, with Sergeant Sentinel Gaming. Thank you so much to the publishers for the review copy. I do greatly appreciate it. Now, Cat President has a completely ridiculous premise. The premise is basically that politicians who were human were so corrupt that scientists decided to create a super gene injected in cats, which would give them the ability to talk like humans and reason like humans so that they could be our politicians. Now, a lot in this story, of course, is a little ridiculous, and I know they kind of explain this, that this entire game is a parody. It's supposed to be funny, it's supposed to be ridiculous, but there are some parts that are much more ridiculous than others. And the way they portray some of these characters, some of these cats, you can see how they lean on certain political tropes that we have, such as a cat named Frisky, who's basically a ladies' man, another one who's Thunderpaw, who is very brash, very he's basically thinking he's the best cat in the room and no one else compares. And of course, you know, in real life politics, you've seen people like this before. But in the story, the way they portray these is much more lighthearted, thankfully. And it's a much more enjoyable story from that aspect. And you start to sympathize with some of these cats, especially with Dr. Num-Nums, who doesn't even want to be... He doesn't even want to be president, and he explains this in his storyline. So you sympathize with him, especially when he actually has all the right qualities that you would want in a cat president. Seeing as this is an interactive novel, there's not really much for you to do other than select one of two dialogue choices when you're conversating with certain people. Like, whichever presidential candidate you represent, sometimes they'll ask you a question, and you have to pick one of two answers that's proposed. Other times you're having a conversation with your best friend Lizzie, and again, you have to choose one of two options whenever it comes to answering her question or a concern that she might have. So this is pretty much a straightforward experience, and it does have a skip option. It does have an auto option where the dialogue pretty much proceeds normally. So if you're just looking for something to unwind and you enjoy experiences like this, especially if you like cats, then I would say that Cat President is a pretty enjoyable experience for what it is. Seeing as there are 6 different candidates, there are of course 6 different storylines for you to experience, and each one is different than the others, which of course is, I think, the strongest aspect of this game if you're looking for some type of replayability. So you can play all the way through one cat's storyline, experience it completely, and then move on to the next. And because of different choices you may pick whenever you're talking about these dialogue options, it can slightly change which direction that storyline goes. So there is at least a little bit of agency afforded to the player. There are a couple of things in the story that kind of stand out as being a little too absurd or ridiculous, such as a couple of females in this story romanticize, I guess, about some of the cat candidates. And it's like, when it comes to games and storylines and creative freedom that people who make these games have, it's like there's a fine line between what's ridiculous but acceptable and what's a little too ridiculous, where you're kind of like, well, I'm not really comfortable with this type of content. And for me personally, a couple of times in at least one of the storylines, it was there for me where I was like, this is just a little bit too ridiculous for me to feel okay with this. And so, yes, you could consider it parody or satire or whatever, but of course, you know, like I said, one of these storylines, you have one of these human females
that romanticizes about an animal, and of course that's, like I said, borderline ridiculous. So if stuff like that bothers you, this isn't going to be a game that you enjoy too much, but you need to be aware of that type of content before you go out and check this game out. Now, ultimately, is this game worth checking out? I mean, if you like interactive novels and you like cats and you are extremely open-minded, notice I didn't just say a little open-minded, extremely open-minded, then I think you're going to be okay with this game and what it has in it. But if any of that does not apply to you, then you're probably not going to like this game. And that's fine. Games like this are very niche anyway. Not everyone's going to enjoy them. But for those that would enjoy them, of course, they're smaller purchases. And of course, with a smaller price tag, you can take more of a chance on an experience like this rather than something that's going to cost $50 or $60, where it's more of an investment on your part. So like I said, if you do like this type of niche type of experience and you have a very open mind, then you might find this entertaining, especially if you like cats, because some of the stuff in here is pretty funny. But if that doesn't apply to you, of course, then this game is probably not going to be for you. Just an FYI. Cat President is available on last and current generation Xbox and PlayStation systems, as well as the Nintendo Switch. So like I said, if you do enjoy these types of experiences, you can check it out on these platforms. Anyway, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I do greatly appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, definitely do so right now. And if you have something to say, leave it in the comment section below. This is SSG, aka Sergeant Sentinel. Take it easy, gamers.